Welcome to this new episode of Parenting and You with me, Dr. Shefali. If you're a parent who's ever felt as if their children are the boss of them, or they've ever felt as if they are hostage to their children's whims and fancies, boy, this episode is for you. I can't tell you how many parents come to my coaching practice with complaints that they have lost power to their children. It's as if their children's moods and whims and fancies are taking over the entire household. These parents complain of a deep and unrelenting helplessness. They are just at a loss. They don't know how to regain their sense of authority over their children. Coming up next are two stories from two mothers who are struggling with their children holding them hostage, being the boss of them. No one tells us just how difficult, frustrating, and exhausting parenting is. No one warns us. I think they do that for a reason, because if they really told us the truth about how maddening this journey can be, how gut wrenching, how anxiety provoking, I don't think many of us would choose to do this. But here we are. We didn't know. And now most of us find ourselves losing our temper almost every day, having to be a drill sergeant. Where were those blissful days that we imagined pre parenthood? They're nowhere in sight. Well, joining me now is Julia, who feels as if that fantasy of perfect parenting has long gone. Welcome, Julia.
Hello. Thank you so much, Dr. Shefali, for having me. I feel so grateful. Thank you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. So I know you're in the midst of a storm. So you have two children. One is almost 14, a daughter, and one is a 12-year-old son. And tell us more about the dynamic between you and both of them. Take us into your life a little bit.
Correct. So when my first daughter was born, I saw since minute one that she was going to be intense. That's how I say. She's what you would call a strong-willed child. She didn't come here to please anyone. She just came here to let me know what she wants and what she wants to do at every time of her life. So, it took some adjustment on my part. I've been doing a lot of work and reading books and trying to be at the beginning. I thought I had to be patient. Then I thought I had to be more disciplinarian. I went through all the stages. Well, finally, I had a good connection with her. And then we lived in New York for many years. The kids were born and raised there. And almost 2 years ago, we moved back to Spain, where I am originally from. And the move was not as smooth, as easy as I thought. So first it was my daughter. Again, I focused most of my attention and focus and energy to my daughter because she's the one who demands more, while the other one, thank God, was more mellow and more, the sweet type. So there we are on our first year in Spain, and she's just being what anyone would say difficult. So not wanting to go out whenever we would go out with friends, whenever we had a plan. She's like, no, I'm not going. I'm trying to help her with homework, find her a private tutor. She's locking herself in the bathroom, like, I'm not going to your tutor. And that is day after day. And again, I grabbed all that I had, all my energy and good enthusiasm to make this transition a little smoother for all of us. As I started to see that she was becoming a little better, then my 12-year-old started throwing tantrums every day. And at this point, it's mainly about going to school. He doesn't want to go to school. And I know part of it really has to do with school because the educational system is very different. So it's hard on them. I realize now that I'm back in my home country after living in the US for 22 years. I'm back and realizing that things have not changed that much, that school is it's a very disciplinarian system, very rigid, a lot of rules, very demanding, both academically and in behavior. And I'm trying to play this role of being understanding with them, but at the same time, letting them know that we need to make a little effort. So all this to say that my son started getting very anxious on Sundays because he didn't want to go to school the next day. And then on Mondays, not getting out of bed. And my general feeling is I'm being kept hostage. I can't do anything with my life. The little work that I have, I quit my job, by the way, which is a very important piece of information, just to help them with this transition. So after a year and a half, I wanted to do something for myself. So I accepted this little freelance work that was going to last for 3 weeks. Well, apparently the kids were not ready for me to, do a little bit of anything for myself. And he's just throwing stuff.
I hear you. Let me ask you a question. Okay, so deep breath, deep breath. I understand. The tension level is at 100 on a scale of 1 to 10. I get it. How is your husband in all of this? I know you have a husband, so.
I mean, we are in a better place than we've been in many years because he's more in line with my way of raising kids. He understands conscious parenting and he wants to be supportive, but it's usually in the midst of everything, when everything is not going well, he looks at me like, how's it working for you?
Yes.
The famous way that I dread. Like, I'm trying here. I'm trying to cooperate with the boy, with my son.
How did your husband deal with the transition?
Not well. It was just hard. So he's been using his work as a good refuge. Do you say like
escape? Yes.
Escape. Yeah. It's because it's so functional. Everyone would understand that he's just working. So he works and works. He locks himself in a room, and that's how it's been for quite some time.
Okay. So let's just recap the issue. You have a husband who's kind of using the defense of freezing and calls it work, right? Because work is socially acceptable. But many, many men in particular do this freezing, which means they withdraw, they disconnect, they isolate in a room, and that's their way of coping. You are the kind of, sounds to me, a mother. I talk in my book, The Parenting Map, right? Different ego masks. You're wearing the ego mask of the supreme fixer, but then you also become a fighter, I can imagine, right? You lose your temper. You said to me before this video came on, you lose your temper, you get frustrated, you're on edge. So you're oscillating between fixer and fighter, which again, many mothers do because we want to help, but then we lose our mind. But here's a very important piece of data that we need to factor in. Okay, are you ready for it?
Yes.
You decided as a parent to make a decision, a life-changing, big decision in your life in one of the most precarious stages of your child's development, which is pre-adolescence. I want every listener out there to just be aware and to go back to your own pre-adolescence, right? Let's go back to that age. It's often referred to as the age of storm and stress. That is the age where our entire identity of who we are in the world comes into question. The first one is at toddlerhood. The next one is between 10 and 13. And then we do it again in middle adulthood and we keep doing it. But these are the key phases. And oh boy, you decided to create a storm at a stage of life where they were already in storm. Their identity, who am I? Do I belong? Who am I in comparison to my peers? Do I feel successful? Can I separate from my parents? Can I be functional in the adult world in a few years? Can I practice being an adult? You move them from a moment of familiarity, comfort. You took them out of their comfort zone. You took them across the seas to a very unfamiliar land. And that is why you are seeing what children do best when they are in struggle. When they're struggling, they do this one thing the best. Let me tell you what it is. They regress. They go back to an old stage where they got their needs met. So he's reverted back to a 6-year-old, to a 7-year-old who's forgotten how to function in the world because the stress of the outside world is too much. The language is different. The customs are different. You took your kids into another galaxy, on another planet, and now you're getting frustrated with them because they're not coping. Well, the environment changed a lot. Now, some kids can cope. So I'm not saying that parents shouldn't try, but if we're going to try such a bold, big, drastic, upheaval, chaotic move, we better be prepared for the emotional fallout. And boom, there you are. Your kids are falling all over the place. They are vomiting out their stress. And you, my dear, are trying to hold it all and clean it all. And it's not easy, is it?
No, no, and you're right, and I'm very aware of that. So that's why in every moment of our struggle, I just want to help them because I know that I put them into this. I know that I really threw them in a train that is running so fast. I mean, here people are thinking already about college and putting so much pressure on them for to excel in academics, and we're just trying to make it to school. And teachers, are talking about they're not making too much effort. And I'm trying to explain them that our effort is just getting up in the morning and showing up. They're like, oh, you're from another planet. So I said, yes, I'm trying to explain you that we come from another planet. But it's more like, yeah, I put them into this. I try to then ease their way in, make it a little more padded for them. But in the way I'm exhausted.
Yes. So I always tell parents who are at their wits' end, like you, that we need to change not just our words, not just our behavior. We need to change our internal consciousness, right? So the first person in any parenting situation that needs to begin the domino of change is the parent in charge, and that's you. So the first thing we need to change is your consciousness. So right now, you are in fixing mode. You are in motivating mode. You're trying to motivate. You're trying to entertain. You're trying to tell them, look, it's not so bad. You're trying to be the magician, the comedian, the entertainer, the motivator, the coach. But in all of this, you are actually in a state of resistance. Your resistance, like your husband, just looks very socially acceptable. And you've studied with me. What is that resistance? That resistance is actually to surrender to the isness. The isness is that they are now experiencing a developmental lag. They are not matching to where they need to be in the outside world. Their inside world and outside world is not matching. And we know when that doesn't match, nothing is easy, right? And we're always trying, even for ourselves as adults, to align the inner world with the outer world, right? It's like putting somebody who speaks Turkish in China. Well, every day there's going to be a clash and it's going to be difficult. It's like putting somebody who is the most amazing artist and telling them, sorry, you have to excel on the football field. There's a clash, right? And I'm giving you very generic examples of an obvious clash. Well, that's what your children are going through. So I'm trying to describe it in symbols for you to get very clearly that you're taking a person whose native language is Turkish and you've put them in Uzbekistan. Okay, and now you're saying, hey, let's do it. Hey, don't you see? We love Uzbekistan. We can speak Uzbekistan. And you are trying to cheer them up, but you are resisting that they are saying to you, I don't like being here right now. I need to speak Turkish. What are you talking? You're talking something I cannot understand. So your children sense your resistance. Children pick up our energy. Our words sound amazing. It's just like your husband. His external is saying, I'm working hard, but you know that his internal is escaping. Your external is, let's do this, let's do this. You're the ever cheerful cheerleader, but inside, you're like, freaking bloody hell, just move on. Can we just, I'm in hell. You said they're holding me hostage. So your internal is not cheerful, is it? Your internal is not optimistic. Your internal is not positive, is it? Your internal is, this is hell, get me out of here. You understand? So all of you, at least the adults, are lying about the internal. You're faking it. Well, guess what? Your children are not faking it. Children rarely fake it. They are like, I hate it. I'm going to show it. They just talk in code. But your son is not even talking in code. He's tantruming like a 6-year-old. He's raging like a 2-year-old because he's showing you, I cannot cope. And mommy, You keep trying to push me into the system, and I cannot. So, what we need to surrender to, and this is very hard for parents, so let's buckle up here. You need to surrender to the fact that because of this big cultural adjustment, there is now a huge developmental lag. They haven't caught up to this place, they haven't caught up yet. So it's going to take another 6 months or so to catch up. And now, if you can surrender, meaning tell your son, you don't need to function with good grades. You don't even need to look amazing when you go to school. You just need to take your body there because I understand. You need to go deeper into the understanding of their struggle. We need to now get off our agenda as parents and go deeper into the empathy of their struggle and minimize expectations. So, the bare minimal, like you said, get up, brush your teeth, splash some water, and just be physically in school. And maybe we need to even adjust that. Maybe they take this year and do homeschooling. Maybe we change the school. Maybe we, get some kids home so they can bond with some children and we spend some energy on the social aspect. There are many things we can do, but the first place is for you to stop resisting the isness of your child's huge emotional crisis.
Yeah, and I wanted to know that part of me, it's not, I'm not justifying, but really part of me, it's in that state, but just sometimes. And I've been in that state for more than a year and a half. Probably my expectation was that we will always get something in mind, like after a year and a half, then they should be fine.
There are many things we can do when we first come from a place of deep understanding. Does he have friends at school?
Yes, he does. So social life is amazing. We do a lot of play dates and he's happy with his friends. All the things that I could adapt for him, I am doing it. So he's coming home. He's doing the sports he wants. He's having as many play dates as he wants. He has more screen that he probably needs. That's in the negotiation, but he doesn't have as much as he wish he had.
You're doing so many things right. I think you're just getting stressed out because it's taking so long and you're not realizing that you don't have a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old. You have a 7-year-old and a 9-year-old. So if you could just frame it like that, because if you bought them here and they were 7 and 9, you would be a totally different mother, right? You'd be calmer because your expectations would be more in alignment. So I always say to parents that there are only 3 reasons why children begin to act out. Number 1, their brains are still developing, right? So in your case, these are preteen brains that you disrupted the progress of, and now they have regressed. Number 2, they don't have enough practice at being an adult. So in your case, they don't have practice like an adult to, make connections and to navigate a new culture. They're learning. Number 3, it's lack of self-esteem or self-worth or some fear. Your children have all 3. So at a very pivotal, fragile time in their lives, you sound like you're doing an amazing job. It's just that you are very attached to your expectation and your goal that this should take this much time. The answer is them acculturating and taking time to adjust. You and your husband grew up here. They did not grow up here. And I remember, Julia, when I came to America, I was 21 years old. And I too had an expectation because I had seen America in the movies that I should be fine here. This is a better life. There were valid reasons. I did the same thing you're doing now, logicalizing and rationalizing. But do you know, emotionally, it took me maybe 2.5 years to fully say, now I've arrived back in my body.
It took me a lot more. It took me so long to get used to the American lifestyle and American culture and American everything that how can I not be understanding?
There you go.
It took me maybe 15 years. I mean, I was in full resistance of everything.
There you go. I just got gooseflesh when you said that.
And it was entirely my choice to go there.
So, mommy, I'm here to tell mommy that mommy's putting too much pressure to make this work. The less you try to make it work and the more you surrender to it's going to be a wreck for another 6, 7, 8 months, when they sense mommy's energy is more relaxed, yes, they still have to go to school, but you're relaxed about how they go. You're relaxed about what they learn. You're like, it's an achievement if you just get your body there. If you lower your expectations just to that and not to anything extra like the grades or the friendships or the adjustments on a social level, your child will realize, okay, she's not asking for too much. I can do this. But I think in our understanding of their deep crisis of being away from their homeland will help you understand this better. I think you need to come from the heart and take accountability that you didn't realize it would be so hard for them, and tell them that you're just so impressed by the fact that they're still trying, that they've even made friends in a different culture. Tell them, it took me 15 years. I am so impressed with you. I'm so sorry that this has been so hard. What can I do to make this better? Once they see you totally opening up, heart to heart, when parents and children go through a hard time, parents try to do what you do a little bit. They cheerlead, they motivate, they make it better. Look, it's better. Look how amazing the sun is in Spain. And look, the water tastes different. That is not what they need to hear. They need to hear, damn, I'm so sorry. This is so difficult. I get it. Once they hear that, then you've brought them onto your team. But you see, you've brought them in now into the struggle. You've showed them that you understand their experience. That is what is needed today. You need to do this right now. When they come home, you need to sit them down and say, go deeply vulnerable and say, I think I may have even made the wrong decision. I don't know. I am so sorry. I see you struggling. I get it. When I went to America, I struggled. Connect, empathize, get them on your team, make them see that you are on their team. And together, I bet you they will create a little bit of an improvement. They'll be willing to do a little bit more. But they're in resistance, you see, because you are in resistance.
Yeah. No, it actually worked with my daughter, and she was supposed to be the difficult one. I just need to, yes, gather myself, make the switch, and try again with my son.
You can do it. It may take a little longer because remember, he's also been the good one for many years. So let him have a little bit of time with your attention. It's time for him to be the difficult child now. It's okay. You need to give him that space to act out. He gave you many good years. Thank you so much, Julia.
Thank you.
I could really relate to Julia's story, and I'm sure many of you could do as well. I remember when I moved our daughter from our first apartment in New York City to a big house with a yard. You see, as parents, we think we know what's best for our children, and we keep getting better and bigger and newer things for them. But we don't realize that children take a long time to let go of their comfort zones. They take a minute or two to adjust to their new environments. And in Julia's case, because she moved countries, it's going to take longer. We adults in our adult mind are rushing our children through the day. And we are constantly moving ahead at the speed of lightning because our brains can handle it. Our brains are developed. Our children's brains are still in formation. And I think we quickly forget. But good for our children because they always have unique ways of reminding us. Coming up next, we're going to talk to Arthy. Arthy is grappling with big-time power struggles with her 6-year-old son, who she says is the boss of her. If you're a parent and you've ever experienced moments of losing your mind, then you're going to relate to this next story. Arthy is going to join us and she's going to share with us her struggles around getting her son to different places. She says that Every time she manages to get him to one place, he takes forever to leave. Everything seems to be a struggle, and she describes him as the boss of her. So, welcome, Arthy. I'm so glad you've joined us today.
Thank you, Dr. Shefali. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here and share the space with you.
Thank you. So, share with us your most common struggles with your 6-year-old.
So he has, I would like to describe him as a very independent, a mind of his own for sure, a very sensitive, and also, in the way we typically use our language, a very stubborn child. And he's very present. So when I read your books, I read a lot of the work that you've been doing. He is very in the now, in the moment. And I think it's really hard for me as a mom to take him out of that now to somewhere in the future where we have to be. So an example would be if we want to go to a friend's birthday party, we give him enough of a heads up because we know, he has a tendency of being very in the now. And then when the moments come closer, we can sense like he is already like feeling very frustrated. He gets very upset. He doesn't want to leave. And this has been going on for about 2 years with him now. So, it's age appropriate as well. And we sit down and we talk to him and we explain to him why it's important to be at a birthday party at a certain time and why, it ends at a certain time and how people's lives revolve around that for that day or for that event. And he seems to understand it, but then there is no movement. And then there are lots of tears from him. And there's a lot of, I don't feel heard. One of the values of our house and everyone feels heard. They kind of twist that and says, I'm not feeling heard and I need more time to go here. And then when we get there, he has a blast, absolute blast. Like, again, in the now with his friends having a wonderful time, doesn't want to leave. So then at the end, we're usually the last people leaving because he's either on the floor, like having a real meltdown, like doesn't want to leave where he is to go somewhere else.
I hear you. I hear you. And as a parent, I'm sure you're already starting to dread these moments of transition.
True.
So what's going on in you, right? I always say that in conscious parenting, the only people we can control are ourselves. So what's going on within you that could possibly be co-creating this situation? What are the emotions that rage through you?
I think the first one is, we've been working on this for so long and I have been very, very patient. So there's a lot of that. And one of the things, I have an older kid too, she's 8. And what she shared is my son takes up so much of the air room that she feels ignored in those moments. Like she's just waiting there or she's just having to disappear in that moment. And I hate that, right? Like as a mother, having to have one child tell you that, hey, I just have to disappear till he's done with taking up all of the oxygen and I get that much left. I think that weighs very heavily on my mind in that moment. And then sometimes I'll lean and I'll tell my husband, like, hey, I don't have any gas to deal with this. I'm going to hang out with the daughter. Like, can you get him to start moving to the car? And, that's how I deal with it. But I think there's a little bit of that, struggle of, here we go again. Where's my patience going to come from? We've just had this whole morning, like coming up to this and, you start running out of energy at some point. So there's that. And then there's, how do I support my daughter in this moment? And she's also transparently sharing that she feels neglected.
Yeah, I hear you. And I really want to applaud you because you've understood his temperament. You've understood that he is not, quote unquote, a bad child. And that is very hard for parents. So you've already graduated to level 5 out of 10. And I will help you get to 10, but which is complete understanding or a solution. But you're already halfway there because most parents get trapped in labeling their child as bad, as difficult. I know you're being euphemistic by calling him stubborn, but I know there have been moments where you're wondering, why is he the only one who is acting out in this way? But still, you're showing an awareness that he's just in the now. And I always tell parents that our children's brains are not yet developed, and we need to keep repeating this to ourselves like a chant. My child's brain is not yet developed. My child's brain is not yet developed. So what I'm thinking should be logical, reasonable, and rational as an adult is not perhaps where he is at. I'm really impressed that you're not entering this situation feeling that he is bad. But I know that you've described him as the boss of you. Okay. So let's go into that dynamic. You're feeling powerless in those moments. You're feeling that he has all the power in the house. So let's go to the root of that dynamic. When do you feel that he's the boss of you, and why do you choose to use those words?
He's very good at reading the energy of all of us in the house. He's so sharp at that. He gets it. TMI, when I'm having my period, I will come out of the room and he will immediately tell me I'm having a delicate day. And that just makes me feel like, okay, like today was supposed to be my day. And so then and this is not like one time, right? It happens very frequently. And my husband and I look at each other and we're like, wow, like he's so in tune with each of us that then we feel like we're all struggling to get it, right? Like for our day or for our emotions. And then he will write that. And he's very good at sensing when someone is stressed.
When you say this phrase to yourself, my child is the boss of me, okay? What emotion does it create within you?
I would say that was a little bit more frustrating.
Yes, it's frustrating. Whenever we say, hey, someone is the boss of me, we're not really happy about that. You're frustrated with that, okay? So when you pitch the other as having more power than you, it's so natural as humans to feel that we are losing out in some way. We are not winning this moment. And that creates frustration. So here's how I'm going to help you shift that. I'm going to give you a solution how to turn the whole dynamic on its head. Okay. And normally I take my time in telling parents how to do this, but I think you're already doing so much of the amazing connection work that you're going to find it easier to implement, because for other parents, I have to really help them to first connect with their children. But I think you've gotten that part down. I think where you struggle is when you feel him, quote unquote, bossing you, you shut down and you're not being as creative as you are in other situations. So here's the thing. Your child is so spot on. Your child is so attuned, so in the now, so sensitive, so playful, so almost like on point in every way. The only time he doesn't like it is when he feels you are the boss of him, right? So when you are in charge and you're like, okay, time to go, he doesn't like that, right? He is saying to you, I'm a free, powerful, independent person, and I don't like when you arbitrarily decide when it's time to leave or come, right? Now, I can just hear the protest of the listeners saying, well, what do you mean? So we have to be in charge. We have to tell our children when to leave and how to leave and what to do. Of course, we are the boss of our children. But here's where we are going to lose out, because just like you don't like losing autonomy and power in your life, our children have the same needs. They too don't like losing autonomy and power. So here's how we can be strategic. You're going to capitalize on the fact that he likes to be the boss. But that can only happen if you are willing to let go of your ego that you're the boss. And I think you've already let go of your ego. You want to just have him be healthy and resilient. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to start working that boss energy to our favor. Okay? So we're going to do something like this. Say you know that the birthday party is at 2:00, you have to leave the house at 1:00. You know you have to start at 12:00. But here's what you're going to tell him at 12:00. Instead of telling him we're going to leave at 1:00, you're not going to do that, because he's interpreting that as she's the boss of me. He doesn't like that. So we're going to manipulate the situation so that his needs are met, but so are yours. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to, you get these fake clocks, to teach the children clocks, So you're going to get 3 of those, or you could just draw it out. It doesn't matter. And you're going to give him one clock that says 12:40. You're going to give him another clock that says 12:50 and another clock that says 1:00. And you're going to tell him, you know what? You are in charge of when we go to the party. You're going to tell him, you know what? I'm tired of being the boss around here. I'm going to give you the boss job. And you're going to get him a little badge that says, I'm the boss of me. Okay? You're just going to have fun with it. Right? And I can just hear people listening to this going, I cannot let my child feel like he's the boss because we're so power hungry. We're so scared to give the keys of power to our children. But here's the thing, you're going to give him a big badge. I'm the boss of me. And you're going to make him choose when we get to leave. He gets to choose. And each time is good for you, isn't it? You'd love to leave at 10 minutes earlier, and you ideally want to leave by 1. So you're giving it a window of 20 minutes. You're giving him autonomy. You're giving him the power of choice, even though it's an illusion of choice. It is a key ingredient in allowing our children to practice owning their choices, right? Don't you want your child to be a critical thinker, a radical thinker, an autonomous thinker? So in those moments, and I'm telling you, this is also a phase. By the age of 7 and 8, you won't be fighting so much. But for this critical juncture where both of you are in a power struggle, you have to go into, how can I make this a win-win situation? And take that with you. And, because it's a fake clock that you can move the hands, take it with you to the end of the birthday party and say, before you get out in the car, you go, okay, now when we have to leave, I want you to be the boss. You're going to choose. So you make 3 choices. What I'm speaking to, this is just one quick strategy. But again, conscious parenting is not about quick fix-its in the moment. It's about a shift in consciousness. So I'm teaching you that the mistake that you perhaps have been making is that you've been thinking he's the boss of you and not liking it, but not empathizing with him. Oh, maybe he feels I'm the boss of him. So let's switch this so that we both win, right?
That would be fantastic. Yes. I'm going to try it out. We have a lot of those, clocks that you get from the dollar store and stuff that you teach them time. So this is a fantastic strategy that we can apply.
You're going to create win-win situations and the whole energy in your house is going to change.
That would be terrific, and I think that'll give us more joy in parenting and more joy in looking forward to going to these events.
You're happy to share the power in the house. And those parents that are happy to share the power and don't see it as a threat when their child is in the all-powerful space, those parents will always raise resilient and empowered children. So thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you. I really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. This has been such a joyful and enlightening conversation.
In both these situations, when we give humans, any human, especially our children, the illusion of owning a choice, we melt the resistance, we gain their cooperation, and we allow them to feel empowered in a win-win relationship. If you enjoyed this podcast, don't forget to subscribe and share it with those you love. And I will see you next time on Parenting and You with me, Dr. Shefali. Parenting and You with Dr. Shefali is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not intended as a substitute for professional medical, psychological, psychotherapeutic, coaching, healthcare, or other qualified professional advice, diagnosis, or treatment.